we're doing this video today to discuss revelation events in terms of how elements and factions will be initiating the script, and there is an order of sequence which they're following in accordance to particular celestial markers involving the Planet X system. We were going to be coming out with this information a bit later on. However, we were actually inspired by a U2 song release which came out recently. It's a song which focuses primarily on New York and the Statue of Liberty. And I have never seen a song so loaded with symbology and overt and subtle revelation intertwined and weaved throughout the whole track. They actually followed that up with a song called Blackout, which we've also discussed, that there will be EMP strikes initiated along with solar disturbances. So the very beginning of this song starts out by saying, her name is Mother of Exiles. The reason she is a mother, for those who haven't noticed, the Statue of Liberty is pregnant under her garments. And that's actually a very vital notation for what the Luciferians are using that symbol for. Because she is a mother who is due to give birth. Now, in her hand, she is holding a torch. And it can be viewed that way. But if you look closely, it is also a phallic symbol in her hand. And there are flames coming off at the end. A rocket being a phallic symbol also, when you look at the design. When you look at the head of the rocket, pointed down, when the rocket drops, that represents the seeding that is going to be taking place. And there is going to be a seeding taking place by fire. And that fire is going to involve a first strike on the United States mainland. And this ties into what Lauda has had revealed to her.
It's difficult talking about this because these are not things that are easy to relate because of the mass destruction and also what that means for a lot of people that, these are hard aspects of things that have been shown. And interestingly, when I was shown this occurring, this was before I was born. So after being born, I kept being shown prophetically that there would be a nuclear strike, and it wouldn't be in New York, but it would be close enough so that the symbology of its location where it would be targeted would basically reveal the plan. And that area that I was shown would affect that entire region. So
with radiation effect.
Yeah, although it wouldn't be a huge nuclear missile. It wouldn't be mega destructive. It would be more of a low caliber missile.
Yeah, a tactical nuke.
Yeah, and it would be basically to begin all of this and to issue in the domino effect of the succeeding events that would be contrived and manipulated.
Yeah. To
make it look like it was natural, because after that I was shown the tsunami.
Yes, and in mentioning the tsunami, it just touches on what I was about to bring up, how first there is the seeding, because the phallic symbol, the rocket, is symbolic of the seeding. And after the seeding is the birth waters. So when the water breaks over the Statue of Liberty with that tsunami, that is the symbolic birthing of Horus,
Mm-hmm.
with Statue of Liberty being ISIS.
Yeah.
I mean, when you were first shown, you told me that you were just shown the region, the general region, and I actually showed you a map. And I said, "Can you pick out, to the best of your recall, where the strike zone was as you were shown?"
I was shown a map. That's why it was. I remember I said, "No, I have to look at the map."
Yes,
then I can.
But the map wasn't marked with
No.
city names
Right.
and state names, things like that. So when you pointed out that region,
mm-hmm.
my heart skipped a beat, because it was the state of Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
And which, once again, these elitists are all about, everything has been predetermined. It's all been pre-scripted.
Yeah.
Okay.
Totally.
The towers were built to be torn down. The nuclear reactors were built on fault lines, on shorelines, very deliberately also. This has all been preordained and pre-marked and appointed by the architects. So those who are the builders also tear down their own creation, and that's part of the sorcery that's involved in this whole Earthscape realm. So they are going to strike at the Virgin, going by all the indicators.
I was shown all of this prior to any of this manifesting, and everything has been happening exactly as I've been shown, to a T. So I'm just speaking about what I've been shown, nothing more. I can't. I cannot say anything other than that. I had no conception of political powers, because this is prior to coming in. I had to be shown all this. And when I was really little, and I kept being shown the prophetic reel, and it's not really prophetic because it's all conscripted. So everything is, that's why it's a reel. So when I was shown that, they were showing me animal symbols with regards to the political powers and how they were going to be maneuvered and who was going to do what according to the animal symbol I was shown, which was relegated to a continent or a country. In that Russia would be allied with the Asian area, where it is North Korea and that whole entire region of affiliated allies. So I saw that it was Russia, the bear, that was backing up this initial attack.
Well, which explains why North Korea has been so utterly bold in all their statements and declarations, and why this whole situation just looks like it's only going to inflame more so and more so. And this is everything they're putting out in the mainstream media as well, because they know they're going to go along with this script, and they're just giving people the heads up in many ways that, hey, okay, this is exactly what the agenda is. This is exactly what the aim is. And looking at Russia and China rapping North Korea on the knuckles, and oh no, we're not pleased. It's all part of the show. It's all part of the charades, because ultimately they are strategically aligned, and North Korea knows this, and this is all meant to go in accordance with a large conflict, which is meant to ignite, but is going to ignite with this first strike.
Yes.
From what we perceive to be Virginia. So we are naming that area specifically, and that's when martial law will be declared.
Well, exactly. And a part of what is happening now in the setup of all of these disasters on the East Coast, it's to weaken the infrastructure and set the infrastructure up already for these other events to take place.
Mm-hmm.
But they needed something for that to be able to be done without anybody being suspicious. So they needed to already move the troops, open the camps, and do all that, get that all set up. But they couldn't just do it without a reason. So it's very is very much by design how this is all happening.
Well, we saw it happen with the attacks on the towers on 9/11. So New York is the gate opener.
Well, from what I've seen and been prepared for. It is the real beginning. It's issuing in the real beginning of the end time events.
Yeah, and that brings me to President Trump, or should I say Donald Drumpf, because that name Trump was specifically selected for him because not only as a trump card coming in where seemingly out of nowhere as a non-politician, however, he is also representative as the Trump-et, because
Yes.
because what is he is going to initiate is going to herald the beginning of those trumpets.
That's the reason why he is the Trump card, and that's the reason why his name is Trump. And all of this is, again, it's all by design. It's like prefabricated homes, really.
Well, yeah, you just set up the plans and the architecture and just move everything.
And many of these key players are what I call the reanimations. They are reanimated to perform this role. Reanimated means that they have been taken already from previous DNA from previous existence, just like taking DNA from the real pharaohs. These are reanimations.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense because all this agenda is basically the carryover from Atlantis, and predating Atlantis to the days of Mystery Babylon and all those ritual practices, and they never left. And
no, they never left, but this is also the reason why you will see the same people over and over again, because they're all reanimations.
Yeah.
And they're put in their positions as per their role.
And directive.
So what we see around us is basically a setup of reanimated scripts.
It's such an ingenious plan because the elites, for lack of a better term, are using these scripted scenarios to further the faith that is going to be instituted in the Bible and the characters within the Bible, which they themselves hijacked also as part of the black and white, good guy, bad guy agenda as well, and the blood sacrifice agendas, which are going to be all part and parcel with these revelation events. And a lot of people are going to be less likely to resist being rounded up because they will see that as a token that they're going home to Jesus, and they're going to agree in their heart.
That's what they want. That's what they want.
Their blood for the Lord.
But that's exactly what the, United Confederation of Earth wants. Every parasite, the archontic, they want the ultimate harvest. And the ultimate harvest is people willingly setting themselves up to be sacrifices for a benevolent cause and a benevolent belief, because that is the purest source of spirit.
A willing sacrifice.
So that's where they can derive the greatest amount of food and energy and magic. So that's why they want to propel this whole religion thing, this whole, the diversity between the religion versus not. Like, they want to keep this going because this is where that polarity is going to create people who are going to stand up for what they believe and be torn down for it.
These sorcerers, they know how the magic works. And when people do set themselves on a path based on what has been laid out for them through the mind magic, I really want to just backtrack now. Another symbolic aspect of the Statue of Liberty is that at the base of the statue is an 11-pointed star. And that is symbolic of Sirius. The order of the Eastern Star is Sirius, and is also the bright morning star. So we can also look at Sirius being a metaphor for Lucifer and part of what is being birthed and what is coming through the gateways. Because as we've mentioned as well, at this juncture is when the portals are opening up. This is why the appointed time is now, and it all has to do with celestial gearings and workings. And just like the rising of the sun, it is not avoidable. And in essence, and in effect, it has already happened. However, where we are empowered is that we can determine where our own individual path takes us throughout these mechanisms. And it doesn't have to be the horror storyline for us personally. Another thing I noticed about the song that U2 track is the time code on it. And when I checked the numerology of that track, it equaled 9, which is the 9 symbolic of being close to completion. 10, which signals completion, leaves it open for the next stage, which is the 11, which the number 11, there's a lot of misconceptions about this number. And again, you have to look at it as within this realm of duality, everything can have a double meaning, both towards the positive or the negative. So you look at the 11, the positive aspect will be being beside the 1 in ascendancy. The negative aspect would be falsely ascending to a throne, to its kingdom. And that's what this Luciferian age is symbolic of. It's symbolic of the mimic by design. And they know they're doing it. They know what is going to be entering on the positive aspect through the celestial gates also. And they know they have a limited time, as the Bible also outlines. And unfortunately for many, a lot of what is written in this Revelation script is going to manifest, is already manifest, and is just waiting to be more so brought into effect. And those who have not prepared themselves accordingly are going to be in for many shocks. The events are unfolding. The events are rapidly unfolding. And again, we don't want to predict specific time frames and date frames. However, this tactical nuclear strike is not that far away. So we are putting this message out specifically as a warning to the residents of New York and the surrounding regions. And what that U2 track through the agents, through the agency of that music track, is allowing people to choose whether they are still going to experience what they've shown, because it is their law that they have to show what their intentions are and what their plans are before they orchestrate and execute those plans. And everything that we've been shown indicates that those plans are going to be orchestrated. If we did not strongly feel convicted by that, we would not be producing this video, because there's a lot of responsibility that comes with this right now.
I wanted to say that the celestial gates are principally through us. The openings of the celestial gates are in tandem with what we are and what we are moving into.
And what we're brought forth in consciousness.
Right. So we are those celestial gates that are uniting with the celestial true energies of creation, but it's coming through us, because we are the means by which these things can come through and manifest.
Well, that's the thing, because if you look at that on the other side of the coin, you can also say that the negative aspect is giving power to these powers and to these forces.
That's the reason why the negative powers work the way they do, because they know this. And so they're the inverted version of trying to access the power in a way that they can utilize it for their own ends. Because
in cause and effect.
Right.
And they prefer to do it via the law, though, as we know, often they go outside it. But more often than not, it is by our own allowance.
Mm-hmm.
And yet people just want to scream and point the fingers about these wicked demons, and yet they don't want to look in the mirror at the demon. People have a hard time looking at their own transgressions. And this, again, this is why we are often speaking about personal responsibility and accountability, and for all the pride that is in the world and everything that people don't want to turn away from. And as we get deeper into tribulation, we're going to be seeing the manifestation and the reigniting of the ancient war of Horus versus Set, which is the old gods, the shape-shifting Aryan Nordic gods, against the dragon, which is the serpentine lines of the Draco reptilian races and their alliances and factions. And this is all part and parcel with what's going to be coming in with the UFO deception, and that's, as we have brought up previously, that's going to be part of the harvesting and parasitism agenda also. So all this has been pre-written. However, the reason we're doing the videos we're doing is because we're trying to focus more on the specific points which is not included in the Bible, and in accordance to the elements we've been shown and what has been revealed to us. So did you say you wanted to give account of beings that you met?
Yeah, I had an experience when I was young, and I met with 3 beings who I didn't realize, that they were gods until after the fact, but they all had heads that were not human, but human bodies. And they were very unusually, totally, completely not scary. I mean, if you meet something like that where it has a human body, the bodies were perfected. They were beautiful specimens. And their heads were literally, one was a bird head, one was a jackal, like a fox jackal type of head, and the other one was a feline. So when you see that, you would think that it would create a dissonance in your mind because it's a body with a head that is not human. But in fact, it's really the reverse. It actually, I know this sounds really strange, but it wasn't weird at all. And I feel that this may very well be a true depiction of what some of these gods are.
Though, did you get the sense that they do have the ability to shapeshift?
Absolutely, yes.
Yes.
There's no doubt about it. I also saw that their vehicles that they can go in are strange geometric shapes. So they're extremely angular, pyramidical, many sides like of a pyramid. They look like nothing spherical, nothing like that. In fact, you look at the vehicles and your mind just can't grasp how these would fly.
Okay.
or exist. But, and then of course, this is where I think that they got the idea of the pyramid, because a pyramid is a technology. So it's very likely that they're using these technologies in shape because they generate certain fields of energy.
So going back to these beings and your encounter, what was the interaction there? What did that involve?
Well, the interaction, I was really young when this happened. I was about 15. And the interaction was based on a fear on their behalf. A fear that of their own demise.
Why?
Well, that's what I couldn't ascertain. It wasn't. They weren't going to tell me really the root of anything. That, you know, they were requesting some kind of aid, but without being specific.
Okay. Did you get a sense that they had caused much harm in the universe?
I got a sense that they were very powerful. I got a sense that all three of them were not united, and that they each were responsible for many things on different levels.
Okay. But service to self orientated.
Right. And I definitely got the sense that they were not being honest with me. And that, but that by telling me too much, they would give away too much power. So it wasn't in their best interest. There were two that spoke the most. The one that spoke the least was the jackal. He was the watcher for the most part, which I found interesting. Very investigative.
Mm-hmm.
And his presence was scrutinizing. So the bird being spoke a lot, and the feline was probably the most benevolent energy out of the three.
Okay. Was the avian being a blue avian?
Yeah, he had a definite blueness in his skin. It was a bluish tone.
Okay. But more closer to the depiction of the Egyptian tablets, and
Yeah.
rather
Yeah,
than
it was a full-on bird head. It was a bird head.
okay.
I mean, it was not.
Well, like an eagle, a falcon, like
No, it was more like a falcon.
Okay.
Mm. Yeah, but not. There's no human anything in the face. Nothing. Yeah.
And how was the communication performed?
Mostly telepathic, but they can speak, and they can speak through. I think there was like holes. He had holes here in his neck.
Okay.
He could speak through that, so he could speak as well, vocally, which he did at some point. But
how many encounters were there with this type of being or types of beings?
from my memory, I only remember once. Although I had felt like I had more, but I couldn't remember more.
Like a history,
right?
Yeah, through thousands of years.
Yeah, and it disturbed me because I did feel an awful familiarity, and when I said that, I felt that even looking at them it felt normal, and that shouldn't feel.
Well, I don't see why not, because there could be a connection there going back thousands and thousands of years. However, just like with any family members, some can go rogue, some can go renegade.
Yeah. There was a feeling like they were trying to do damage control of some kind. that something had spiraled out of control, but they weren't giving me anything specifically.
Okay. So did you feel that this situation had gone so far beyond their control that they felt they were in danger somehow, or in danger of being judged or punished?
In danger of something that would render them either neutralized or that they would be removed or something. Like,
okay, so you're talking about them fearing a higher power
mm-hmm.
rather than a equal enemy,
Yeah.
so to speak.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's all very interesting because it still all does tie in with what you know and what has been outlined with certain prophetic events.
One of the reasons why I had to have my memory intact was because it was mandatory. It was vital on behalf of what I have to do and what I'm doing. But the thing was, it was told to me that provisions had to be made and taken in order for me to have this preserved and for me not to be wiped. Like
so they almost had to go through some kind of back door or a special guard had to be
special special and not easy either. So it was explained to me that everybody has their memory swiped, and that the nature of the swiping is quite extreme. So it isn't that they just swipe your memory here, it's that it actually is a swiping of your memory on multiple levels.
Cellular, and
so for them to do what they needed to ensure that I wasn't going to be swiped and that I would come in with my consciousness and with what I was shown, that they had to do quite a lot of provisions to ensure that that wouldn't happen.
Do you know any more detail to that on how those provisions were?
And that it was permitted, But
do you know how those provisions were put in place?
They wouldn't want to give me the full information on how they had to preserve what they needed for me, because if they did so, then the enemy would know and they would access the intel. So they told me what was needed to explain the condition of humanity here.
Okay.
And basically it was so that I would comprehend the nature of how everyone is relegated to their point zero, starting from nothing for the most part, and that they were swiped on multiple levels that go through dimensions.
Okay.
So really it's accessing those dimensions to get into this memory. That's why it's in layers. Because what the technology is here, it would be too easy if they just swiped you here, but they didn't give you a veil in between. Then everybody would be able to access it more readily.
Okay.
But the accessing typically is layered because of that. Mind you, having experiences like that is very strange because not that I've seen a lot of beings that are very strange. It's just that what's strange about it is that these are beings that I discovered after the fact were written in mythology. That their pictures were in the ancient tombs of Egypt, that they were depicted in ancient stories. I had this feeling that these beings are affiliated with the reptilian agendas and the Drach.
The resource and the prize is the humanity which is spirited.
Yeah.
and the soul harvest energy, and some are considered more of a prize than others because of what they carry in essence.
Mm-hmm.
And not everyone does carry that in equal measure here, you know.
No, and there's also those that are of the fire blood, and those are, I mean, no, there are differences, just as there are differences in all the verses of creation.
Exactly, different species, animals, and it's no different with humans. With the human kind, or as you would call it, the woman kind.
Yeah, womankind.
Yes, I need to
Womanity.
I need to be retrained to that word now. And looking at the Cascadia subduction zone, mainstream Illuminati-owned media has put out the warning for the Cascadia subduction zone. Mm-hmm. And if I were you guys, I would take heed of that. Mm-hmm. Unless you have no problem. Again, I'm not going to judge anybody and their path. If people are not fazed by that and not afraid of whatever outcome could eventuate, by all means, I'm not trying to dictate or provide a directive to anyone. We're just the messengers of what we've been shown. You know, we've been privy to a lot of technologies which are going to be deployed, which are going to work in concert with orchestrated events and the disasters which are going to be part of the Planet X system and the effects of the sun and the core dynamics, which are already taking place. And what you have is certain engineering going on where the breaches that have taken place right now are being exploited by those with advanced technology. So we're talking about further breaching fault lines which are already been breached and fractured. And that's how this works, because they are working to their timeline. You know, it's not an accident that all this technology has come in now, again, because that's all part of the release as well. It's all part of the technology release dumps. It's part of the information dumps, all the knowledge dumps by the architects in many ways. Don't think that it's just some... don't think it's just you. It's woken up.
No, in fact, that is I'm glad you brought that up, because I think that's hugely important, because I think if people can't take into consideration that their waking up had something to do with what was done purposefully on that side of it, they're going to be missing the ability to see these other manipulations, just like, you know, Project Bluebeam, how that is designed so that you wouldn't be able to tell the difference between what's real and what isn't. So it works the same with how they have generated openings in people so that they would, quote, wake up. And some of that is done by design to control the flow of how all of this is coming open.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and actually, seeing as you brought that up, and the technologies as well. The last time I brought up the voice of God, I didn't actually provide more information, and I want to speak about I think there's been 3 occasions that I can recall where that technology was deployed on me. And the first time I heard it, I actually thought it was an angel, because the words which were spoken in my left ear, and maybe that can be an indicator of how the technology is used, it was only in my left ear. So the message to me was keep the faith. And I was actually very much into Bible study at that point in time, very immersed in the Word of God, or should I say of the Lords, Lords of Hosts.
Yeah.
And they knew that because, let's just say, we are some of the most heavily surveilled people as operatives. That's how it goes. If you're a deep level operative, then you have no secrets. I'm not going to go too much into the advanced tech that they have, but let's just say we know that every word that we speak is recorded. They have lenses. They can see through our eyes. All of that. But anyway, back to Voice of God. So, first message was keep the faith, which I thought was an angel. The second time was upon awakening. It was your home star is the dog star Sirius.
Mm-hmm.
I know that these beings which are coming in from the Sirian gates and the Orion gates. And these were the entities that have already been shown with prophetic insight. I'm going to recognize exactly who they are when they come through, because they know exactly who I am. I know who they are. We go back a long way, and I'm sure we've been fighting them for a very long time with these cyber wars, where a lot of our abilities were not shut down back then like they are here and now. But we know that there is going to be more of an unlocking taking place in a balance for when this AI effect emerges more so. And the real warriors are going to be standing up. And those who didn't do what they were nudged and meant to do by spirit are going to fall away. And it is what it is. And there's a part of us that we have already, well, I personally, I'll speak for myself, I've already in many ways gone through my mourning process for humanity. I know that many of humanity have chosen to fall away, and I know for the sake of my path, I have to accept that. How does that profound saying go? Grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change.
Yeah.
And the wisdom to know the difference.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Although I do feel that we can change anything we want, but we need to want to.
Well, on a personal level,
Sure.
and if that ignites onto others, but I can see as, I mean, look, a great part of a sweetheart. Let's face it. We know how this script goes,
Mm-hmm.
and those who are spirited are going to be meeting and joining up with the like-minded,
Mm-hmm.
and the ones who want to be the vampires and the parasites, they will find their groups, and they will be the ones who will be defending against.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where you don't believe the misinterpretations in scripture which say thou shalt not kill. That is rubbish. It is thou shalt not murder, and there is a huge difference, because you have a sovereign right to defend yourself at all times. And defending yourself against an unrighteous and harmful engagement against a being which probably is possessed, you have every right to take out that threat if it has engaged against you, firstly. And this is actually very vital at this juncture, that people start seeing through the bullshit.
Yeah.
Because if you want to be the lamb to be slaughtered, then that is your choice also.
Well, and we can discuss this situation where the setup was so that people's lost vestige of self-protection would be removed, and that they would have cause to do so by creating this event that happened, or quote, in Las Vegas. The real agenda was to use it so that they would find a reason to remove people's guns and the right to protect yourself.
Well, it works both ways.
And also to create more surveillance in the world, because the next part of the technology that is coming up, which is what I was shown, was the holographic invasive technology, which you don't really need cameras because this technology can just see through everything.
And interesting you bring that up, because you just reminded me of a news report which I read of not that long ago. And apparently there's these very, very bizarre structures which have been put up in New York, of all places, which apparently have cost many, many millions of dollars. And they're not disclosing what these structures are for.
Mm-hmm.
And they're very alien-looking
Mm-hmm.
structures. And they've been planted in New York first.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's very interesting, considering how we've been putting out the warnings regarding New York being the main target to kick things off.
Yeah.
And the surrounding region.
Yeah.
So we feel that, this is all interconnected.
Mm-hmm.
And because they know what chess pieces are in play and where the pieces are and for what.
A lot of this technology, this new higher level invasive holographic wave technology is what they want to start implementing in everywhere. But in order to do so, they need to be able to give the population a reason, because the basis of the way that this whole magic system works is that if everybody accepts the carrot or the lie, then they can move in and do what they want. So if they set something up and then they pretend to give the solution, aka just like in 9/11, well, here's the solution. We're going to step up our protection. We're going to put more surveillance. We're going to, for your protection.
Yeah, build the cage that much tighter. But those with discerning minds know that this was a coordinated strike using multiple agents, and real people do die even in these false flags attacks. And even though I haven't seen any real footage of any truly mangled up, bleeding bodies with torn up flesh as a result of receiving high caliber fire, I'm not going to dismiss the fact that real people could have died. Because it does appear that their markings were all over this as a sacrifice. However, the very fact that they chose a guy with the name Paddock, I personally feel that it appears that this individual would have been an agent, just like Lee Harvey Oswald was an agent of the services. It appears that this mysterious character was an agent, and that is not his real name. And if it was specifically selected. He was specifically selected because his name is Paddock, and it was the harvest in the paddock that was taking place, which was a 9-to-1 blood sacrifice, which again, it's completion, then reset for the new cycle, which is going to be the Luciferian stage. It's very disturbing because a similar psyop was placed into effect in Australia, and they have the guns, but there's two ways of looking at it, because the orchestrators of these psyops also know that the threat of a confiscation is going to result in a huge buy-up of weapons. Those who are concerned about the military state, which is emerging. As you've been shown, there is going to be a resistance by the American citizenry to attempts at greater confiscation, more forceful confiscation.
Absolutely.
And you saw firefights, is that correct? Yeah.
Oh yeah, I saw a lot of rioting. No, they weren't going to take lightly to that, which is good, you know.
Rightly so.
And rightly
so. Yeah. Well, history will show that governments who have disarmed the citizens, usually there's been a lot of bloodshed against the citizens following. So you have a war god, which is going to be symbolically birthed through the phallic symbol of the rocket striking the state of Virginia. So hitting the Virgin.
Or
and then
raping the Virgin.
Interesting perspective.
If you're going to have a rocket, quote, a penile attack, it's a penile attack. That's rape.
Yeah, I think you're onto something.
It's a metaphor for raping the virgin. It's a metaphor for raping, quote, liberty and sovereignty.
Those who are of us who are spirited, we know fundamentally what is right and wrong within. And the question is, how many have lived in accordance with that to manifest their grace, their inner grace? Mm-hmm. So that no matter what happens with all these crazy, chaotic events which are planned and will be orchestrated, then will you be the calm in the storm? You know, will you be your own light bearer onto others? Because it's going to be a time where there are going to be leaders that are sought and those who are looking for guidance, and even guidance in terms of just keeping it together, like on the most rudimentary levels. And there are going to be people who need to be pillars. And this is where community is going to be so important, because we're not called to do it all on our own. And but by grace, you will be guided, and you will have a compass to being where you need to be, and to encounter those who you are meant to encounter, who will form part of the fortitude that is required to withstand.
These are the times when what they want to solicit is the feeling of
an attack on sovereignty. I should finish.
Yes, and a feeling that nothing is predictable anymore. Safety isn't predictable. That you can literally be uprooted at any moment by any disaster that would just come suddenly. That money, the economy, that nothing. There's nothing that you have a feeling of any kind of safe foundation anymore. And this is what they want to solicit.
Well, look at it. It's all built on a house of cards.
Exactly.
Okay? You have an electricity grid which can go down or be hacked into so easily. So just imagine everything that's so reliant on electricity. Mm-hmm. Hardly anyone seems to have a landline these days. Everyone's got mobile phones. That is such a fragile network all in itself. In case of emergency, that's going to get jammed down real quick. Mm-hmm. Then you've got your petrol bowsers, your water supplies, which is all, again, through electricity. We suggest that people start preparing. It's really that simple. And
it's based on false, antiquated technology that was never necessary, because we already had unlimited technology. We have it all around. The abundant energy that is here would allow everyone to be independent of their own usage of it without being reliant or dependent on any government or any structure. So what they have given us instead is specifically to render everyone neutralized and dependent.
Yeah, well, that's
imprisonment. So
this is all performed by design. It is all structured. It is a game of chess being played by the architects. So it's all in line with the Freemasonic chessboard operation, and they see it as a game. And in their game, real people die, real people are sacrificed. We are officially putting the warning out now. We were going to come out with this message eventually, but seeing as Bono's got the ball rolling, if they're putting it out now, then the timer has been set.
Yeah, and you need to take heed.
Yes. And those who do not see it, those who according to them do not have the eyes to see or the ears to hear the blatant warnings, mm-hmm. deserve what's coming to them. That's how they're going to look at this.
That is how they see it. And that's a part of how this illuminated work So they don't want to give you the obviousness in your face, but they want to put it out there so that you can determine this for yourself.
Well, it's a very Nazi-like ideology because it still goes by the precepts of the survival of the fittest. Because even mentally,
Mm-hmm.
the fittest.
Yep.
We are treating this with the utmost seriousness. Like I said, we are giving specific intel. We do not want anyone to blindly take our word.
No.
If you are, if you're a religious person, take it with your higher power. Okay, ask for your confirmations.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we do not want anyone to blindly take anything. We are testifying via our sight, via our perceptions, via our experiences, and we are performing what we have felt nudged to do, what is in accordance with our spirit and the spirit which watches over and has guided and protected us for most of our lives, and we have long known who our adversary is in our midst here. We've been under no illusions of the many mechanisms here which are working against sovereignty and which are trying to overcome souls and trying to snuff lights out. And we're doing our bit, and really it's for those who are meant to take heed.
And it's critical that people truly begin to listen to their own discernment and their spirit, because they're going to need to be good at that for everything that is coming, because it will be exceptionally difficult to discern what's going on and what's real, what's illusion, what's all of it.
Well, in many ways, humanity is being left to their devices,
Mm-hmm.
to be responsible, to be more so responsible and accountable for their decisions and choices, where previously they would have had the big parents, the spiritual parents,
Mm-hmm.
watching out for them.
Mm-hmm.
But it's almost like, okay, the class has been in session for a long time now,
Mm-hmm.
and who's ready for the final exam?
Mm-hmm. Well, they want people to stop being children.
Exactly.
That's it.
Oh, it's exactly. It's time to put on the big girl and boy pants on, and to start owning your choices, including your ignorance,
mm-hmm.
and owning that too, and accepting the repercussions
Mm-hmm.
for such. And it's going to be, there are going to be people who are going to just want to stick their head in the sand, and then they're going to want to take action when it's too late, and then you're just going to be a burden on those who did prepare.
Mm-hmm.
And most of those people are trying to get away from people like you. And I know that might sound harsh, but it's almost like, if you haven't seen it by now, we're past the 11th hour, okay, or it's minutes to midnight, indeed.
Mm-hmm.
And we're personally at that point where we're not trying to save anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now it's just trying to ignite those who are already sparked, who've already got the spark lit up, trying to ignite them further to do what they need to do. And I'm sure that they're the kinds of people who are going to be brought to our channel.
Well, in this way, we really are the ones we have been waiting for, because if we do not truly, genuinely comprehend that it is from within us, then it's the condition of the lost.
A big part of your message is to have people more reliant on their own decisions, or taking accountability, taking responsibility for their own decisions, their own behaviors, in the everyday.
Their own creation.
And their own creation, absolutely. However, I do look forward to when you will testify of the good family who sent you.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Because I feel that too is a vital message that people need
Oh, I know.
to receive at this point.
And
because many are feeling lost, even in their faith, because their faith is not built on a strong foundation, because it is still within the game, so to speak, their game, their chessboard. And the black squares they see as white, so they're feeling that they're not feeling connected as they should.
They need to feel connected to themselves first. That's simple as that. They need to be self-empowered, and they need to be reconnected with their own spirit and their own unlimited potential before they can truly expand to accept things in a way that would not make them into a weaker version of themselves. That is my whole purpose of getting people to remember who they are.
Yeah. Helping people to integrate their own selves, to put their pieces together.
Yes.
And then the righteous family can help uphold
The transition, yes.
Yeah. It's almost like you've got to have a bit of rope to be able to hold up in many ways.
Mm-hmm.
You can't expect like a toddler, because we're not toddlers. If you're listening to this, you're not a toddler. So you can't expect to be picked up and carried like a toddler through all of this.
Mm-hmm.
It's not how it's meant to be.
So there's a methodology to what I reveal when I reveal, and it is in such a way that first and foremost, it must be for the self-empowerment and the remembering of people's members, of touching that unlimited, eternal essence that has no limitations, of going outside by going through the inner of your being to that still point where nothing can affect you negatively.
Yeah.
And picking up your weapons, your innate gifts that have been until now used.
Well, I say that the true living word is the sword.
Mm-hmm.
Because we can wield much with thought creation, word creation.
Absolutely. We are a weapon. We are the ultimate weapon, and that is the message that I want to give, and this is how everything that has been created technologically is to mimic what we are innately and what we have as a weapon. We are the natural version of it. We don't require the construction of material to create it. We are it. But everything outside of us has to mimic it, and therefore they have to create it in the only way they know how, through all of these technologies and these magic technologies, utilizing the power and wielding it against us. But we are the weapon. And much of what I've been shown, by the way, also, which I will get into later, is how we're going to be wielding our natural weapons and creating things to protect ourselves. And a lot of this right now has much to do with how people are learning how to protect themselves, how they're learning how to deflect arrows, how they're learning that, this reality is based on a remote control type of interface, so that you can neutralize the remote control scenarios, because they are not real. It's just like when we walk, whenever we walk, there's always that remote controlled vehicle that has to be super loud just to jar. Just out of the blue, and it doesn't matter where we are, just that has to happen right then and there. Just like a car out of the blue trying to smash you, just like...
Yeah, it's the matrix effect.
Right.
Yep.
And these are the things that we, through our own power, can deflect. And we can create membranes of protections.
Well, and as you mentioned in your discussion with Shane, we are in many places at once. We can be in many densities at once. So
Yes.
it's more than meets the eye here.
Far more.
And yeah, and we really are in more of a powerful position. And I know that we've discussed some very intense facets of what's coming. However, ultimately, the message is to be an empowering one.
Yeah.
In preparation, first and foremost, because you do need to prepare for a battle which is going to be wrought against you, and you are required to defend against it.
And ultimately, it is for everyone's liberation. Ultimately, this is what people have to keep in mind. The current paradigms in place must be completely destroyed. Because unless they're destroyed, this prison system, this cellular cell system, will continue to keep everybody in containment. So there are no illusions about that.
You testified as well to me, and I'm not sure, I can't recall if you mentioned it in any of the other videos, but you said that you came in because it was already done. The outcome was already determined.
Yes. This is for true life. And the message is for something that is far better, which should have happened a long time ago, and it didn't. So the purpose of all of this will be to truly give that true life essence a chance to create as it was always meant to. For those that have been asking questions, it is very difficult to respond to them. The workload currently doesn't give for extra time. We are doing the best that we can by doing these webs as well, and the information that we're doing is led by spirit. And if we are unable to get to your questions, it's only because there's simply not enough time. My schedule's crazy, and eventually, hopefully, there will be a lot of answers within the material that we bring out, and there is already answers in the material itself. So
I know, and that's the thing. It's like you say, we are going by spirit. We're not trying to force any information out. We just go by our subtle nudgings, and sometimes inspirations just come as well, and sometimes there's no rhyme or reason in that. So we just go by our inner feelings, and hopefully we can cover what is pertinent for people, because I know some questions I notice, they're not, people may want to know, they might have a desire to know certain things, but we're trying to focus more so on what is the pertinent knowledge that people need to arm themselves with, to prepare for the times that are coming of greater tribulation and trial. So that is our main focus and priority.
And for those that respond by saying that we're creating this, quote, timeline of Armageddon, or
by speaking about it,
by even giving out the information about what I've been shown, even what I want to say about that in particular is that the script has already been done. It was always a script. It was always going to be scripted and done. The whole purpose of this event, the convergence of the event horizon, is to literally be done and finished with all scripts for all time, for all timelines. So this was merely an inevitability. It is already finished. It is already complete in its... So this is basically wrapping everything up.
Yeah, the great purification, which has already played out, but we're just going through the page turning.
And there are measures that are being done by many of us who have different purposes that are acting as energetic
Anchors.
preservers and anchors and protectors on the whole of it all. So there are many of us who've been placed here strategically in quadrants for these purposes while all of this is happening.
Yeah, a lot of them have been holding the frequency of certain locations until they've been called out.
Yes. So...
And many are being called out from their placements at this time.
Exactly. And there are... And I want to stress that there are many protections in place. Many things that are working towards protecting in place. And there are those of us who have a purpose in that.
Absolutely.
So...
Yeah. The world is a stage, and everyone will play their part.
Mm-hmm.
In some way, shape, or form.
Yes. And then there is, there is that which has come from outside the matrices for this purpose. But that's another story. This is Sovereign Key Productions for a sovereign race.
Remember.
Remember.
Thank you.
Always trying to forget. You're always wanting to pretend. I see right through your selfishness. I'm too bad, I don't want to face. Swear never would I have you.